The first hardlight barrier materialized just as the core gunships opened fire. Sable's golden constructs erupted from the crystalline ground, deflecting plasma bolts that would have vaporized the command center. Her face was set in fierce concentration, sweat already beading her forehead from the strain. Perimeter defense. Elena's voice cut through the chaos as hollow fighters scrambled to positions. Keep them away from the fragment bearers. More barriers bloomed around the settlement, interlocking shields that caught and scattered incoming fire. But Kael could see the strain in Sable's posture. Even with her enhanced resonance, maintaining this scale of protection against military-grade weapons was burning through her reserves fast. Ghost flickered out of existence, her form scattering into probability shadows. Going after the eastern gunship, she called, her voice dopplering as she phased through dimensions. Try not to die while I'm gone. The air filled with impossible geometry as Reflect engaged the northern approach. His mirror sight showed him every angle of attack before it happened, allowing him to redirect incoming fire back at its source. Core pilots found their own weapons turned against them, their targeting systems confused by reflections that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. But it was Kael who surprised everyone. He reached deep into his stolen arsenal, the Weaver abilities from that first drain, the signal pulse from the Hollow Scout, the nullification fragments he'd absorbed from the Infiltrator. For the first time, instead of using them separately, he let them blend. Bandwidth exceeded. System overload imminent. Override it, he commanded, pouring resonance into the fusion. I don't care about safe limits. The abilities merged in ways that shouldn't have been possible. His signal pulse became a targeted disruption wave, unraveling the molecular bonds in gunship armor while simultaneously feeding targeting data to his allies. Hostile aircraft began to suffer catastrophic system failures as their hulls developed stress fractures at the quantum level. How is he doing that? Ren shouted over the weapon's fire, his scanner array going haywire as it tried to classify Kael's impossible signal signature. Elena was too busy coordinating the defense to answer, but her expression showed grudging respect. The Corps had brought 3 full gunships and a squad of powered armor infantry. Against normal opposition, it would have been a slaughter. They hadn't counted on 5 fragment bearers fighting in perfect coordination. Reflex mirrors caught a plasma barrage meant for Sable and redirected it into the southern gunship's engine intake. The aircraft spun out of control, its pilot struggling with controls that showed him 17 different versions of reality. Ghost materialized inside the eastern gunship's cockpit long enough to drain its pilot's neural implants, then phased out again as the aircraft tumbled toward the ground. She reappeared beside Kael, grinning despite the blood running from her nose. Phasing's getting easier, she reported. Combat stress is actually helping with the glitch. The tide was turning. Core infantry found their powered armor failing as Kael's hybrid abilities ate through their shielding. Sable's barriers had evolved from simple defense to active weapons systems, catching enemy fire and launching it back with compound interest. Elena's hollow fighters pressed their advantage, using zone-adapted equipment that actually functioned better in the reality distortions. Then the reinforcements arrived. New contacts. Ren's scanner painted the sky with threat markers. 6 more transports, heavy escort fighters, and... His voice went tight with fear. Orbital artillery platform moving into position. High above them, a core destroyer had pushed through the dimensional interference to achieve firing position. Its main gun began to charge, energy signatures visible even through the atmosphere. They're going to glass the entire valley, Elena realized. Everyone out. Full evacuation. But Sable was already moving. Her hard-light constructs shifted from defensive barriers to something unprecedented. A massive focusing array that reached toward the orbital platform like golden fingers. Are you insane? Kael shouted. You can't deflect orbital bombardment. Not deflect, she replied through gritted teeth. Redirect. The destroyer fired. A column of coherent energy lanced down from orbit, enough power to crack continents. It struck Sable's hard light array and bent. The beam curved impossibly, its trajectory altered by constructs that existed in the spaces between physics. The redirected orbital strike punched through the Earth 50 meters to their east, carving a perfectly circular shaft that disappeared into darkness. Into the hole. Elena commanded. The deep zone. It's our only chance. They ran for the breach as Sable's constructs began to fail, her resonance finally reaching its limits. Behind them, the settlement erupted in flames as the remaining core forces realized their orbital strike had failed. The ground beneath them cracked ominously as they reached the shaft's edge. Reality distortions rippled outward from the breach, and Kael could smell the copperan ozone scent that meant dimensional barriers were wearing thin. Together, he said, looking at his unlikely alliance of former enemies and reluctant heroes. They jumped. As they fell into the deep zone's alien darkness, Kael realized with mounting horror that Hallam's assault had never been about capturing them. She'd been driving them exactly where she wanted them to go.